All right, everyone. So this is my tutorial on how to write an 8th grade paragraph. I'm going to run through these things kind of quickly because luckily with this technology you're able to go back and rewatch things, which is exactly what I want you to do. If you don't understand something, go back and watch it again. All right, so we're starting off with how to write a paragraph for the 8th grade level and above. We go with a 3x3 plus 1 as something to help you remember. There are 3 parts, and each part has 3 parts in itself. And then our plus 1 is our writing conventions, which is spelling, grammar, that kind of thing. It doesn't really fit in, but it is just overall everything that you write should have good writing conventions. So you see that there is the introductory statement, the 3 details, and the concluding statement. Our introductory statement has 3 purposes, 3 parts. 1 is to grab attention. Now you should always remember this one because your language arts teacher has the last name, at least for now, of grab. So I hope that you can at least remember that. 1, if you forget, you can always look up at the front of the classroom or the back of the classroom, wherever I'm standing that day, and say, who's that lady? Oh yeah, that's Miss Grab. The very first part is grab attention. After that is state your main idea and preview the 3 to 5 details that are going to be in your paragraph. You should always have at least 3. Sometimes you may have up to 5. You really shouldn't have more than that for a paragraph because it gets too long at that point. So some ways in order to grab attention are you could start with a question to connect to the reader. Something like you might say, should school be fun? Let's say you're writing a paragraph. I'm going to write this fake paragraph with you through this about my class and convincing you, sort of, that hopefully that my class is wonderful, which I hope you believe at the end of the year. So should school be fun could be an attention grabber. You could also give an interesting or shocking fact or statistic. Now, I totally made this statistic up, although I think it's based on a real statistic that I read somewhere at some point. But 65% of high school students who drop out of school report boredom as their main reason for doing so. Now, you can tell right from that statistic that I'm probably going to convince you that the class I'm telling you about isn't boring. You could start with an anecdote, which is a short story. There once was a young girl who spent so much time hating school that she swore she would become a teacher so that she could prove it was possible to make it more exciting. This isn't really the story of how I became a teacher, but it's a great attention grabber, right? It sounds like a teacher you'd want to read about. Start with a strong, blunt statement. Hands down, the greatest language arts class ever to exist is Miss Grab's 8th grade course. I mean, that is a fact, really. It could have gone in the fact or statistic, but it is a strong statement, especially when you're doing persuasive pieces or argumentative pieces, as they're called now. You might be saying strong statements, like strong opinion statements to start off. So those are some ideas to grab attention. And then we'll start building the paragraph. It really should be indented, but that's our conventions piece. So if this was my introductory statement, hands down, the greatest language arts class ever to exist is Miss Grab's 8th grade course. So that is my attention grabbing piece. In the purple is Miss Grab's language arts class is the best. That is my main idea statement. And then in the blue is my preview of my 3 details. Because it incorporates technology, students get to do many discussions, and she plans fun activities. So those are 3 reasons I give there why Miss Grab's language arts class is the best. And then I'm going to go into those details a little further in my detail statements, which is next, supporting details. There are 3 parts of the supporting details. Now this is where it gets a little confusing because there are 3 parts to each of the 3 supporting details. I guess we could do like a 3x3x3 plus 1, but it seemed a little confusing to me. So you have written paragraphs before. This should all be a review and maybe building on it a little bit, so you know that you need 3 details in a paragraph. There are 3 parts. The first part of a supporting detail statement is a transition word or phrase. Do not, please, please, please do not use first, next, then, or first, second, third, or first, last. That is so elementary school. Maybe you could use it if you're writing directions, but for the most part, your writing isn't directional. The second part of the supporting detail is the statement or point. Now, these two pieces you're probably used to. The third part, there's my cute period with a smile. The third part is the evidence part. Now, you do this when you're speaking and when you're making a point to someone, but this might be new for 8th grade within a paragraph. So 3 pieces there of a supporting detail statement. And you need at least 3 supporting detail statements. Now, I say statements and not sentences on purpose. If you notice, I said introductory statements instead of introductory sentence because it does not have to be just one sentence. Transitions. Don't use the same transition over and over. You really shouldn't be repeating the same transition in a paragraph at all. Make sure they make sense with what you're writing. For example, you wouldn't say first, next, last, or first, then, if it's not something that is in order. Like if you're just listing reasons and they're not in order, then you wouldn't use those types of transitions, which are the ones I see most commonly used. They can be 1 or 2 words, or they can be almost an entire sentence if you're transitioning from one topic to another. Within a paragraph, because they are shorter pieces of writing, it's usually just a couple words, but if it's longer, that's okay. Part 2 of your detail statement is the statement or point. It's just the point you're trying to make. And it should match up with the first detail previewed in your topic statement. So if we go back, I have lots of clicking, to this, where I wrote my topic statement, in the blue there was my previewing 3 details, and it said incorporates technology. That was my first point. My second point is that students get to do discussions, and my third point is that Ms. Grab plans fun activities. So my first point should be about technology, and there it is. To begin, there's my transition. Ms. Grab uses a lot of technology in her class. Okay, great, so there's my point. Now, this is the very important part that students often skip, but you will be doing this so much over the school year. Hopefully, you should be doing this. How can you back up your point? So you need some sort of evidence to back up your point. It may be an explanation, such as the example I have here. Ms. Grabs uses a lot of technology in class, which is highly engaging for students who are so invested in the internet and electronic devices. So that's explaining why technology is great. A quote, I made this quote up, but I'm sure it's true for someone. Ms. Grab uses a lot of technology in class. One former student, when describing Ms. Grab's class, said, "Learning through flip videos and watching her videos on YouTube really helped me to learn." So that kind of gives your statement a little more credibility if you have a quote to back it up. This one is used most often. You're going to use it a lot when we're analyzing text once we start doing short stories. You could use a fact or statistic. This is especially if you're writing an informational piece or a argumentative piece. Ms. Grab uses a lot of technology in her class. This is engaging for students today because 70% of teens listed the internet as their favorite hobby in a recent poll done by the Huffington Post. You could use an example. Ms. Grab uses a lot of technology in class. For example, she posts many assignments on Google Classroom and uses videos to teach reading strategies. So that's both of those. That second part, the evidence, it really backs up what point you're trying to make. That's so important within a paragraph. A proper paragraph needs 3 to 5 details, and each detail needs those 3 parts. So each detail needs that transition, the point, and the evidence. So if you have here, we're looking at our paragraph that's building up. Our topic statement, hands down, the greatest language arts class ever to exist is Ms. Grab's 8th grade course. Ms. Grab's language arts class is the best because it incorporates a lot of technology. Students get to do a lot of discussions, and the teacher plans fun activities. So there was my preview, so I know that my first statement, my first supporting detail statement, should be about technology. My second one should be about discussions, and my third one should be about fun activities. Each one should have a transition, a point, and a piece of evidence. So let's look. To begin, Ms. Grab uses a lot of technology in class. Okay, so to begin is my transition. Ms. Grab uses a lot of technology in class is my point, which is highly engaging for students today who are so invested in the internet and electronic devices. There's my evidence. In addition to technology use, there's my transition. Ms. Grab allows her students to have a lot of discussions. There's my point. She normally has students sit in groups and will regularly let students formulate answers with their neighbors before she asks for volunteers. All right, there's my example evidence. Other major factors that make Ms. Grab's class an enjoyable experience are the fun activities she plans. All right, there's my third point and my transition, other major factors. Throughout the year, expect to see the classroom change into a dark, moody place for reading The Telltale Heart and a coffee shop during the poetry unit. So there is my evidence there. So we're almost done. Last piece is our concluding statement. It again has 3 parts. Each of the 3 pieces has 3 parts. Starting with a summarizing transition. Now, I am a real stickler. I do not like when people say in conclusion as their concluding statement because it's so generic. It's so generic. So please avoid in conclusion. Don't use it. There are many others to choose from. Start with a transition. Restate the main idea in new words. And then you want to end by leaving the readers with an ending point or thought or connection to them, why they should care. So about a sentence or half of a sentence to connect to the reader. Like I have a little bow there because it kind of just puts a bow on top of it all. Here are some good concluding statement transition words or phrases. You can use these instead of in conclusion. So you could always pause the video here, take a look at these, write a few down if you need to. I chose all things considered as my transition statement. And then that is in blue, the second part of my concluding statement, the restatement of the main idea. Miss Grab's class really is an enjoyable language arts class. That was the same, basically different language, but same main point that I made in my topic statement. And then my overall tie a bow on top statement was, although she does make her students work hard, as long as they try their best, she will do her best to make the class worth the effort. So I didn't want to start a whole new point, but I just wanted to kind of end up with a summarizing statement. All right, so here is our full paragraph. I'm not going to read through it all again, but you can see all of the pieces. In green is our topic statement. In blue is the first detail statement. In purple is the second detail statement. In, I don't know, coral, what is that? Red coral is the third detail statement. And in a cooler green, less slimy green, is the concluding statement. And then the plus one, which goes over all your writing, is conventions. Do you have good spelling, capitalization, usage of the correct words? Is your grammar, does it make sense? Do you have any typos in there? Do you have any extra words or deleted words? Do you use proper punctuation? Always, always proofread your work because that will help you. And I guarantee I almost always find mistakes, and I even miss some sometimes. But it is a great habit to get into, always proofreading your work, even if it's a small writing assignment. So, in summation, the 3x3+1 model for an 8th grade paragraph is an introduction. Its 3 parts of the introduction is grab attention, state main idea, preview details. You need your 3 detail statements. Within each one needs a transition, point, and evidence. And you need a concluding statement with a transition, restatement of the main idea, and a connection to the reader. Overall, you end with about 8 to 12 sentences total. All right, so for class tomorrow, you do not need to know these hands down, but you do need to be familiar with this and be able to discuss it. Any notes you took on this PowerPoint, you also should bring in with you. All right, I'm out. Bye, folks.